All right, well, greetings. Thank you all for being here. This was delayed because we had a very good and thorough discussion in the Transportation, Infrastructure, Energy, and Environment Committee regarding issues surrounding Bill 5214. As I said in the committee meeting, I have yet to hear the killer argument that negates the fundamental point of Bill 5214, that we should not be exposing our children, our pets, our water supply, our bee population to toxic chemicals merely for the purpose of having a weed-free lawn. You can have a beautiful, lush, green lawn without the use of chemicals that are hazardous to health. And I haven't heard the argument against that. In fact, we continue to get large numbers of emails over the weekend. Dozens and dozens of emails came in both for and against the measure. I think, I haven't counted, that we still are getting more emails in favor of Bill 5214, but the emails against Bill 5214 are on the rise. But I will tell you this, I think the arguments that they're making against the bill are logically fallacious. For example, a recent multiple email campaign states that products available commercially are extensively tested by EPA, but that's not so. We heard in the committee meeting today that individual active ingredients in the shelf products are tested, sometimes by EPA. Often EPA relies upon the chemical manufacturers themselves to do the testing, but the combinations of active ingredients and the actual products on the shelves, which may contain a half a dozen toxic active ingredients, are not tested by EPA. So that assertion that the commercial products are tested is a false assertion. The argument is made against the bill that it is flawed because these products will still be available for sale in a hardware store. But we are allowing the use of glyphosate, for example. Even if 5214 becomes law, we would allow property owners to use Roundup to control invasive weeds. So, and the bill as drafted doesn't affect hardscape. I don't recommend it because I do think Roundup is a carcinogen, but as 5214 was offered, you could still use Roundup to clear weeds from your deck, your patio, your tennis court, but you could not use it on your lawn where children or pets would be expected to play. Now, that may be a flaw in the bill, but to suggest, as the proponents do, that because the bill is not universal in application, it doesn't go far enough. Those very same proponents don't support making the bill universal in application, and they don't support banning the product for sale on the shelves. They don't support applying the bill to agriculture or to golf courses. So to cite exemptions in the bill as a reason why the bill is flawed is itself a flawed argument against the bill. I'm a practical person. If someone comes to me with an absolutely essential reason why it is necessary for these products to be used on people's lawns, I'd like to hear it. I haven't heard it. And this bill was introduced in November. We've had a long time to hear from the opponents. The opponents are threatened by the prospect, whether it's a lawn care company, of changing their practice. But in Canada, the lawn service industry is thriving. It's doing very, very well in the province of Ontario, where the use of these toxic chemicals has been prohibited on people's lawns. So I think the lawn care industry will continue to do very well. And then my dear friends in the farmers community are really just not even talking about the bill before us. I got an email again from an official of the Montgomery County Farm Bureau who said, "We understand that your bill exempts us, but we're afraid that a future council might cover us." Well, I can't speak to what future councils might do, but Bill 5214 doesn't affect the agriculture industry. So the idea that in future the council might act in a way that it is not acting now, you can't argue against that, but it's certainly not a reason to oppose the bill that's before us now. When we last met, I said that I was hoping to get this through before we go on our summer break. Chairman Berliner strongly objected to that. He has not scheduled a meeting before our summer break of the T&E committee to report out this bill, but I did get an agreement from him today that he will allow a vote on this bill in his committee on September 21st, which would be the first meeting of the T&E committee after the council comes back. I think it would be unfortunate and disruptive if the council president were to bypass the committee process, and I will not seek to do that. I'm satisfied with a vote on September 21st, which would enable us to vote in the full council on September 29th, and then that's the way I intend to proceed. So I don't think we'll get Bill 5214 out of the council prior to our summer break. But I do think we'll get Bill 6014, the Earned Sick and Safe Leave bill, before the full council, and I'm optimistic that it will pass. We had a very good committee meeting in the Health and Human Services Committee, which I chair. I anticipate there will be amendments in the full council on June 23rd relating to some different treatment for very, very small businesses, potentially businesses of 5 employees or less. If that's what's necessary to get a majority of council members, hopefully a unanimous vote of council members for Bill 6014, I'm open to that. And I acknowledge that when you're an employer, you take on a lot of burdens. We want a healthy employment environment here in Montgomery County, but at the same time, Bill 6014 will protect the interests of employees who have the least negotiating power. I acknowledge that the labor market is a market of supply and demand, but government historically has acted in the interest of those employees who are least protected. And so over the years, the government has prohibited child labor. The government has required overtime for employees so that they can't be compelled to work 7 days. And the government has a minimum threshold called a living wage. And I think enabling employees to get paid for a relatively small amount of time when they are sick, so that employees don't face a choice between showing up to work sick or losing income which may be necessary to maintain their home, is a reasonable measure. It's something President Obama has called upon state and local governments to act on, knowing that Congress is paralyzed. And so, consistent with this call from President Obama and the Secretary of Labor, Tom Perez, who's touring the United States, highlighting jurisdictions that are acting on earned sick leave, I'm quite comfortable with the approach we're taking. And I understand that when a bill is being considered, there's anxiety and concern, but over the long run, I think employers will find that they can adapt to this just as they adapt to workman's compensation, just as they adapt to a minimum wage. My wife runs a small business in our home, and she must now cope with a variety of requirements from, as I mentioned, workers' compensation, unemployment, a variety of requirements. And so providing a small amount of paid sick leave, I think, is just consistent with the responsibilities you take on as an employer. And we're going to clarify that there is substantial flexibility if you're already providing personal time off that can be used either for vacation time or for sick leave. That's just fine. So, I've heard from employers over the last few days who say, well, I already provide paid vacation time. My employees get 2 weeks of paid vacation time. Why should I have to provide them sick leave too? If they're already providing time that can be used either for vacation or sick leave, then they need not change anything, assuming Bill 6014 is enacted. The flexibility for personal time off will be just fine. So I know that there's some heat being generated by both of these measures, but I do think ultimately they will both pass the county council. I see my friend and colleague, Councilmember Tom Hucker, is here, and he's a strong supporter of both measures. I do think I have a majority of council members who will vote for both measures, and I'm hoping we can get a unanimous vote for Bill 6014, the Earned Sick Leave bill, on June 23rd, especially if we do provide a little more flexibility for the very, very small workplace. So with that, I'll yield and look forward to any questions you may have on any topic.
Can you explain the sick leave a little bit in terms of part-time workers? Does it affect them as well?
So under Bill 6014, any worker who, as adopted by the committee, any worker who works who regularly works more than 8 hours a week will earn 1 hour of earned sick leave for every 30 hours that employee works. And that would apply to a part-time as well as a full-time worker. So the amount of earned sick leave you accumulate depends upon how many hours you work.
And the maximum you can get?
The maximum would be 56 hours per year.
George, you say you haven't heard the killer argument on the pesticide bill. Have you heard anything either today or in recent weeks that will compel you to change?
Yes. Yeah, I think I agree with Dr. Paul Krystowski, who is a chemist, a PhD, environmental consultant, that probably referring to lists developed by foreign governments, whether it's the European Union or the government of Canada, probably isn't wise, and I think it raises unnecessary objections that we can address very easily simply by having our own county develop lists based on information available here in the United States. And I'm prepared to change the bill to reflect that point.
That's it. I'm sorry, that's it.
That's the major change that I'm comfortable with right now. Other council members may have other changes. I don't know what amendments will be offered. Chairman Berliner is developing a lot of amendments, and the committee will take those up one by one. There may be some that I support. I don't know yet.
What about the possible preemption of this by the state?
So, as I said at the beginning of the committee meeting, our constitutional system provides for checks and balances. Anytime a legislative body acts, it's possible that an aggrieved party could petition that measure to the courts, and the judicial branch is a separate branch of government, and anything we do is subject to judicial review in the event of a lawsuit. And so any bill we pass it could potentially be struck down in court. Our legal staff laid out in detail a legislative history that suggests that he believes we would not be preempted. The Assistant Attorney General has opined that we might or likely would be preempted, but we wouldn't know that unless we were sued. We don't know if we'll be sued. I think that the strong concerns raised by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of constituents about exposure to carcinogens, pets being lost as a result of running through yards that have been treated, these chemicals being asthma triggers, these chemicals being causing concerns for individuals who suffer from multiple chemical sensitivities. I think we're acting in the interest of the public health, and if we're sued, then it would be a valuable test not only for Montgomery County but across the United States. There's strong interest in legislating in this area. There's strong interest in going beyond the relatively bare bones protections offered by EPA, and so I'm comfortable with moving forward, and I think we should move forward.
Back to the sick leave bill, you said there are some things that might be added into it by the time the full vote takes place. What might go into that? You said exempting small businesses. What?
I'm hearing from council members that amendments may be offered that may get support from a majority of council members, possibly including me. I haven't seen them yet. I'm not offering amendments myself, but other council members may, that would treat businesses with 5 employees or less differently with respect to the number of paid days that employees could earn, and I'm open to discussion of that. My hope would be that we could get a unanimous vote of 9 council members for this bill, and if some accommodation is necessary during the legislative process, we're accustomed to that. I'm open to a discussion of that.
Getting a unanimous vote, you said that. Why is that?
Because history shows that if you have an 8-to-1 vote, the one council member who votes against the bill gets the most coverage by the media, and the perception that the public will have is that this bill is a bad idea if a council member says this bill is a bad idea, even if 8 council members vote for it. So, you always want to have a unanimous vote if you can get it. And if we need to make some accommodations in terms of the size of business and the number of hours required, I'm open to that conversation in the hope of getting a good unified consensus.
Last week there was a public hearing on the potential privatization of the Department of Economic Development. What were your thoughts after that public hearing?
I just hope we can do this quickly. I hope that when we pass this measure, which I think we will, that the executive branch acts quickly, that the executive appoints a board quickly. I think we're in a very unfortunate circumstance now where the employees of the department are finding it hard to concentrate on growing jobs for Montgomery County when they're not certain about what's going to happen to their own job. And that's a very unfortunate circumstance. I hope it doesn't last too long. Because the executive has called for the privatization of the department, I think that maintaining the department as a government agency just can't work because the executive doesn't want to work with that structure. And the private sector has been calling on us for years to adopt the Fairfax model, and I think we've run out of reasons why we aren't doing it, especially after Mr. Silverman left and the position of director, it's filled by an acting director now, but we don't have a permanent director in place, and I think we've sort of run out of reasons why you can't have stronger private governance of our effort to strengthen our private economy and attract jobs and investment.
Well, what about some of the transparency? Well, there are a couple of concerns. One that I heard at public hearing was transparency concerns if it's privatized. Another was that for some of the small businesses, like I think the mobile app founder who spoke, that the the privatization might not actually suit them better, and the argument that, you know, Fairfax has a lot of things that it does differently from us, and maybe has some taxes we don't have in addition to us having taxes they don't have, and vice versa.
Well, there were interesting points raised, and there were examples given by the president of McGeo of scandals that have occurred in private economic development corporations. This entity won't be able to operate other than having an annual appropriation by the county council. And so we use our budget every year as a way of exercising real oversight. We will demand accountability and transparency, otherwise we won't appropriate its budget. So I think there will be accountability. And you know, I look at, for example, the Arts and Humanities Council of Montgomery County, which is a private nonprofit. It appoints its own board, and it's been very successful in it, and we appropriate government funds to it, and it then awards those funds under a merit review system to arts organizations. And I've never heard any concerns about accountability or transparency. And so I'm the chairman of the committee that appropriates those dollars for the arts and humanities, and I think that's been a very successful model. And so and we have other models, the Collaboration Council for Children, Youth, and Families, for example. So you know, I'm familiar with dealing with entities created by county government that are not county government entities, and I think those have worked very effectively in Montgomery County.
So why do you think this one might be drawing more concern than those other examples? Is it just because economic development?
Well, the employees are scared, and I'm sympathetic, but employees in the merit system have seniority rights, and they'll be placed elsewhere in county government, but they don't yet know where they'll be placed, and so change is scary, and I'm sympathetic to that, very sympathetic. I mean, the mission of the Economic Development Department is extremely important, and it's being disrupted now because of the change in status, and I'm concerned about that, and I'm concerned for those employees, and to the degree as a legislator I can be involved, I want to assist in making sure that their voices are heard and that they're placed soon and that they're provided with security and stability.
Any other questions? Tonight is the meeting on the forum on the public financing. This will be the first elections in 3 years and put money aside. Now talk about why this came about. What was the problem you guys were trying to sort of solve with that?
Well, this is another case where Montgomery County is seeking, in our own limited universe, in this county of more than 1 million people, to address strong concerns about the governance of the entire United States. And there are strong concerns about the influence of money in politics. And I understand those concerns, although my vote has never been for sale. I do understand that there's a perception that elected officials cater to the interests of those who donate large amounts to their campaigns, and I can't dispute that that is possible, although I don't believe it's ever been true in my case. And so I'm a strong supporter of the mechanism that we will try for the first time in the 2018 election for county executive and county council. We were authorized to do this by the state legislature. It took a long time. It was an idea that our former colleague Phil Andrews promoted for a long time. It passed the county council unanimously. The public forum tonight is to assist people in understanding how the new rules are going to work. If there's a donor who had in mind to write a $3,000 check to me or another council member, that's probably not a good idea right now, because we wouldn't be able to use that money in the 2018 election if we were going to be candidates in the 2018 election. So it's helpful for politically active individuals and those who may be contemplating candidacy and those who may be contemplating giving money to elected officials or candidates for office to understand how the new rules are going to work, and that's the purpose of tonight's meeting.
You've run 4 campaigns and been victorious, but to talk about in that time what fundraising has become as a candidate, how much of your time ends up being dedicated to it in the last 12 years or so that you've been doing this. I mean, how much more has it become, even at a local level? How much more has it become?
Candidly, I don't think it's increased. I mean, in every one of my 4 campaigns, I've had to devote an inordinate amount of time to fundraising. And I don't think that's the time best spent. I'd rather spend my time reading and studying and meeting with my constituents, listening to my constituents, responding to my constituents, and not asking them for large dollar amounts. And the, you know, what was interesting of the bills that I mentioned, Earn Sick and Safe Leave, the pesticide bill, they have encountered a lot of opposition from what I would call vested interests. The campaign finance bill, no opposition. And, you know, so I think that wealthy individuals and corporations, you know, they don't love being hit up for thousands of dollars either. You know, when I talk to traditional donors, to me and other politicians, they're like, fine, great. There has not been opposition from large donors because they don't appreciate being asked for thousands of dollars all the time. They don't like it when politicians come with their hands out. And so under the new regime, there will be a limit of $150 that contributions, if you opt into the system, will only be allowed from individuals, not from other political entities, corporations, labor unions, PACs. And it's a voluntary system. No one's compelled to use it as a candidate. You can continue to adhere to existing Maryland law. But for those who opt in, I think it'll be a better system and it'll enable more contact with more people. And the value of small contributions will be maximized because the public fund will match small contributions. So, and I think it will reduce the amount of time spent asking wealthy people for large checks, which is nobody's favorite activity, let me assure you.
When you look at the history of campaign finance reform at the federal level, it certainly suggests that money, that special interest money is going to find its way into the system eventually, one way or another. Do you expect that? You suspect that's going to happen with this bill?
It's possible that independent expenditures might increase, but I think this is an experiment worth trying.
Do you expect that this will draw more diverse candidates or increase competition in the primaries?
I think competition is healthy. I think a vigorous marketplace of ideas is good for the voters, but we won't know until the 2018 cycle gets underway, and it's not underway now. And you know, I want to be very, very clear. This forum tonight is co-sponsored by the Democratic and Republican Central Committees. This is not a platform for any individual to announce her or his campaign for any office. We're starting early enough that it's well before the cycle. I don't think it'll be politicized, and I hope it won't be interpreted as an effort by any individual to promote any particular candidacy. It's just general information as people begin the early process of figuring out who they want to support, whether they want to run, and what the new rules are. I just think this is an experiment worth trying. I mean, it got the unanimous support of the council. It's in place. It's the law. And let's pursue it in 2018 and learn how it works. And if problems arise, or if we find that, you know, money is finding a different outlet, you know, we could review the law and revise the law in the future if it seems warranted.
I thought that was an 8-1 vote.
Was it?
No, I don't think so. No, you're joking. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, no, it was a unanimous vote.
In terms of people who have successfully operated or run and won with public financing, the two most recent examples I can think of who did not win, Heather Nazir and Phil Andrews. Does that say something about you can't win in this system, or?
I think, you know, you could analyze Heather's campaign and Phil's campaign in a lot of different ways. I mean, you know, in Phil's case, he was running against an incumbent who, you know, people had generally perceived to be scandal-free and had done a good job, and he was well-liked. So, I mean, I think Phil was, you know, facing an uphill race against the incumbent county executive. In Heather's case, you know, she was a delegate running against the lieutenant governor and the attorney general. She wasn't a statewide elected official. She wasn't all that well-known. So, you know, there's a lot of reasons, I think, why Heather and Phil didn't make it. And then, you know, the candidate who you didn't mention who utilized public financing is Larry Hogan, who, last I checked, was occupying the governor's mansion today.
So if someone right now, say I was thinking of running in 3 years for a dog catcher or something, if I wanted to use the public financing, you can't take any donations above even now. So in 3 years, say someone gave me $1,000 or something, that would automatically disqualify a person from being able to take public funds.
No, that's not correct. So candidates now can accept campaign contributions up to the state limits, even if they intend to be a candidate for executive and council in 2018. They just can't spend that money in their 2018 race.
Can I ask, Councilmember, you had a fundraiser a couple weeks ago, didn't you? What happens to that money?
If it's acceptable to the council member, maybe he could join us at the table. If you're going to ask questions on the record, because that way everybody can see. Yeah, you don't want to? You're briefing, but sure. No, you're welcome to join us. It's just better if you're going to be on the record, you should sit up here. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I don't object at all. I'm delighted to have you join us. It's just if you're going to do it, you should do it on microphone.
I was just curious what happens to that if you opt in to this system, what happens to the money that you raised, whatever amount it was at this point?
Well, I wasn't on the council when they voted for it, so I'm
Right.
looking forward to the forum tonight so I can learn all the details. But, I mean, I guess the way I looked at it is 2018 is, it's a long way away, so probably none of us know exactly what we're running for next time, whether the system will be completely in place. It's sort of in the habit of having a fundraiser every year, so.
Does this appeal to you does it have some appeal to you, this idea?
The system? Yeah, I've been if you check my legislative record, I've been a supporter of public financing at the state level for many, many years and a co-sponsor of that bill. So never thought it would happen at the state level. I'm glad my new colleagues here have adopted it here, and I hope the whole system gets funded and implemented. And I anticipate that I would take advantage of it if it does.
So you can, just to get back to Matt Bush's question, you can spend money now. For example, if I buy an ad, as I did in the NAACP Freedom Fund dinner book or the Montgomery County Democratic Party Spring Ball book, which I did in 2015, then I can spend that money legally from my existing account. I don't know if I'll be setting up any other account. I don't know if I'll be a candidate for office in 2018. That's not a decision I've made yet. But once I make the determination, if I do, I honestly don't know if I'll be a candidate in 2018, but if I establish a fund for 2018, then once I establish the fund, then I could only expend funds from that account for the 2018 campaign for executive or council.
Could you comment on the Gazette?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, your reaction
Yes.
for the county.
Well, with all due respect to my friend Bill Turk, I think it's a shocking abandonment of the Washington Post Company's obligation to the community that it serves. I'm enormously disappointed that Mr. Bezos did not see fit to use his abundant wealth to continue to benefit the community. And I'm terribly worried for the future of honest and accountable government. I just don't see how, if we're not going to have wealthy philanthropic individuals like the Oaks and the Sulzbergers and the Grahams who are going to continue to use their wealth to promote the cause of public information. Journalism is not solely or really at all a profit center. Journalism is a public enterprise and a public service. And to lose the opportunity to monitor what we do here is just very, very worrisome and troubling. I'm worried for the future. Over the weekend, I saw recirculating of false information on Facebook that really disturbs me and upsets me. You see things that are just false, just rankly false, that you see all the time on Facebook, and people can't discern what's true. And historically, we've counted on National Public Radio and the Washington Post and WTOP and other outlets to give us the truth. And as those outlets disappear, it's going to be harder and harder to make wise and sound decisions. And in the absence of journalism, rascals thrive. I mean, individuals can get away with malfeasance and embezzlement and crimes if journalism is not there to hold them accountable. And the absence of the Gazette it's a terrible, terrible loss. And I hold Mr. Bezos accountable. I think it's an abandonment of his responsibility to the community that his organization serves. Any other questions? No. Okay. Is that it? All right. Well, great. I really appreciate all of you coming to these meetings. Thank you.